Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode, and I got some goodies for you here. Hey, I have goodies every time, I'd like to think. Black Knight, this was a... Marvel Superheroes was a... it started off as a double-sized comic from its inception. It had reprints of early books, like Avengers #2 and Daredevil #1, stuff like that. And then around issue... I don't know, 13 or so, they had an original feature at the front with reprints in the back, and it was the original, that was the Kree Captain Marvel, who took over for a couple issues. And then they kind of rotated different characters in this the first Black Knight solo story, the one connected to the Avengers. Now, you could easily confuse him with the Black Knight of the 50s, where Stan Lee and Joe Maneely, they had a very short run because tragically Joe fell in a subway on the tracks and perished. And it was horrible because he was supposedly like as fast as Kirby, and he just did a lot of inventive stuff. And his stuff was more illustrative, whereas Kirby's is just more power and illustrative where needed. This is a stat from an inside page. This is a brand new figure from Jabba Seba, and so it's Howard Purcell. Now I don't know a lot about him, and maybe he only tinkers in Marvel. He did once in a while, but Dan Atkins brings on the juice. Look at that, love that. It's like sometimes you could use a little sponge and dip it into like a grayish, like you take ink and you put a lot of water in it and you get like a grayness to it, and then you dab very gently, and sometimes use your fingerprints, and it takes a day for the ink to get off, but Wally Wood double lighting there, baby. And back then they didn't give colorist credit, so I'm still a bit that looks like that has like a feel of Wally Wood very much, and just really great stuff. And you know what? If the occasional panel is swiped, that's not entirely bad, as long as you don't make your living doing that. So there's that cover. Because what's funny is, like the earliest Frank Miller did Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man, like those two issues that skyrocketed him in fame. Even though I thought they were kind of crappy, and he got pretty good as further time went on. But he did a panel, I'll have to show in a future episode, where he swiped a Kirby figure, and it's like the most Kirbyest, wonkiest angle of all time. And but he was a new guy on the block too. That's really exquisite stuff. And the panel arrangements, they jump around it because Neil Adams was starting to make ripple effect through both the big two Human Torch reprints from the 50s. Then you get into Submariner in the 50s, which I think is like, well, this and the last few years of his life were the peak of Bill Everett. Now, he's credited with a lot of books, and there's some time right before he went to war, I think he went to war, in World War II, there was a lot of assistance, and you could see some panels are definitely not his work. This is the All Winter Squad and Captain America. So you got like a nice chunk of comics. But this format didn't last very long because it was just experimental. Tower Comics, which was run by Wally Wood, and he had Steve Ditko and so many other great creators on board. And then also Silver Surfer came out, #1, and #1 through 8 were double sized, but they haven't entirely aged well because most of those stories could have been told in one issue or a 12-cent issue. We used to call him the Silver Sufferer because he was always whining about not being able to get back to Zen La Di Da. Okay, and then we got Cyborg. So great. This is an overlay that would be in ink, but it would be shot as red for the printer. And I remember doing this kind of stuff, not with comics, but when I went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, I learned how to do, it was called key art. It would be on a hard board, and you would do crop marks, and then you would, lay that over so it doesn't it doesn't show the blue or the it's really clever. And this is a time when coloring innovations were way before technology could really keep up. And 4-issue miniseries with what's amazing is Marv Wolfman and George Perez. They do all 4 issues at the same time. They're doing a monthly Teen Titans book, and the only issue skipped was like issue 5, where Kurt Swan did a fill-in issue at Perez's expense, at his request. And then they both did like annuals, like double-size annuals. So they were just really, really prolific. And that's because it caught fire. It was just lightning in the bottle. So, so he's a brainy kid, and his father, who is a scientist, takes notice. And then but he wants to come out and play. He doesn't want to sit, and read computers all the time. He wanders around. Here comes a car, and I stood there like some fool staring at the headlights. And this kid rescues him. He goes, "Man, you a freaking jerk or something? Why are you just standing there, huh? Answer me, boy. You saved me?" "Yeah, sure, boy. Couldn't let a brother go splat, could I? My name's Ron." And that's how they became friends. And they kind of did, like not. They did minor things in the big picture, like shoplifting and stuff like that, where some kids kind of fall into that stuff. But they were just being rascals. I can't think of a better word. Anyway, that drawing of the father is so amazing. He's just got different cheekbones, different everything. And he's upset because he wants to be an athlete. And, but Dad's disapproving of all the sports that's going on. Now what's great right there, him and Ron, different clothes, different hairdo on Ron, and it goes through the years, and it goes with different styles of hairdo and different styles of clothing. So it's like this was painstakingly made, and it really pays off. And anyway, Ron's getting ready to rumble, and Vic's trying to talk him out of it, but he just goes, he gets talked into it somehow. He sort of wants to see what's going on and make sure things don't escalate, but they do. And again, Ron saved Vic. And wait, okay, yeah, he got cut, so he was fighting back. His dad is so upset. I swore I wouldn't call him my son if he wound up this way, and I meant it. So they're both struggling. And then further on, a couple years later, Ron shows up again, and his hair, he's got a beard now. Like, so much attention to detail. And Vic Stone looks a little older. Man, that is beautiful. Beautiful. How about that page? "I hate you, old man. I hate you. Damn it, why didn't you just let me die? Why didn't you let me die?" But he eventually learns how to work things, like trying to somehow hold an egg. Trying to control his increased strength. And he walks out on his dad again. This time Ron shows up again, and "What do you want?" He goes, "Me? You got yourself one suspicious mind, just after goodness and justice, man. And yeah, we got a big target tonight, the United Nations. We're going after it with dynamite, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. Besides, I don't need trouble because Vic Stone's coming back." So they part ways. So Ron and his cohorts are putting a bomb together. And first appearance of Cyborg in his full costume, his outing, I guess you would call it. He's taking them all out. His stuff is called molybdenum. I always thought that was bizarre. But, hey, that's clever. There's no adamantium, though. So, thankfully, everything's adamantium these days. That depth of the city and the simplicity of the top of the United Nations building. It's really, really great. So Ron's fallen. And he's like, but time's ticking away. You know, save Ron or throw the bomb. And he grabs the bomb. He says, I don't owe you, Ron. Maybe I owe the kid you were before you scarred yourself beyond reason, but not you, Ron. Not you. So it goes out. You know, he's heartbroken. And what's great is there's 4 issues, one focusing on Beast Boy, one focusing on, Changeling, and one on Starfire, and one on Raven. And they're all inked by different inkers, which I thought was pretty cool. And, oh, I already showed that one. This book, the reprint issue here, I would sort of put it on par with This Man, This Monster from issue 51. This man, this monster. Well, because first issue of Fantastic Four I've ever seen, and I see this scary looking guy looking right at me, and it's scary, but it's hypnotizing. I just had to have it. And, you know, Fantastic Four, I'm thinking, oh, they're the 4. So, but anyway, the reason I compare this to FF51 is no action happens. It's all character building, and it's all situation, and it's all coming to a head. And it's early on, yet another attempt to cure the Thing. And there is, I love that. The miniskirt the Invisible Girl had. It's really cool. And it never showed up again, unfortunately. Maybe it was a Comics Code thing. Who knows? Well, Ben's all bummed out, so Reed decides to horseplay with the Invisible Girl. And he gets blown by Ben's super breath. And they all tangle up. They have a good laugh. She's like, yeah, he is a stupid a-hole, isn't he? I'm exaggerating, but anyway, check out that hot rod Kirby's doing. Look at that perspective. And, well, Johnny's with his fellow grease monkeys and hanging out. Well, that is very much a cynic face, like kind of, it just has a softer feel to it, even though you could tell he's pissed off. And he's young. He's a younger guy. He's not Mr. Fantastic. So, well, they're about to brawl. Crystal from the Inhumans, who's his girlfriend at the time, you know how I feel about useless fighting. He goes, if you want to behave like a barbarian, I'll treat you like a barbarian. You're not the only one who has a temper. So she does, creates a tornado. And look at that pose that Crystal's has. I love that. That's very, very different. It's almost like she's, I don't know what. It's really cool. Well, you know, Ben's still cracking up over their little thing just to keep his, the little gag that got his mind off of what was serious about his transformation. Blah, blah, blah. I'm rambling now. Sorry. This Dr. Santini, he's supposed to help Ben change into, supposed to help the Thing go back to being Ben Grimm. Well, he gets kidnapped. And this guy replaces him. Looks exactly like him. He's getting all dressed up because his doctor's coming over. And take a deep breath, Benjamin. Huh? Come on. Here's where we focus, everybody. And what happens is he breaks free of his fancy clothes. Oh, this is such a great, great trope. If you see Ben Grimm lifting anything in any book, like a splash page of Marvel 2-in-1 or just other eras, it's never the same thing. It's always like a big, giant machine, or it's just some... And it's so funny because I'm like, oh, where does he keep all that stuff? But, you know, you don't care because it's just drawn so well. And like I said, there's no real fighting going on. They're just working on making Ben turn human again. Love that. Get the slingshot from Yancey Street. And Kirby does that. He does that widescreen stuff way before Brian Hitch. Although I would say that you know, like everybody else, he was inspired by Kirby. Doesn't even pay attention to his hat coming off. Shows up. They get him ready. I'm just gonna jump to the end because it's not the end. It's continued. Okay. Okay. Don't be excited. I'm not gonna spoil it. Durr. I have no fingernails. Well, something happens, and he breaks free, and that's terrifying. That's scary looking stuff. I mean, the selective shadow, below his brow, and everything else. And I was just like really charged up. I have the next issue as well, but I'll cover that in a future episode. Let me see. Here we go. The Mighty Crusaders from 1983. This is a series that has never, ever succeeded. It's such a weird thing. Most of these started as reactions to the Batman show, where all these costume characters were coming out from smaller companies and everything. And the original Shield, he predated Captain America by almost a year. And he had a shield-shaped chest emblem that, get a kick out of this. Yes, there's two kinds of shields. It's kind of neat. The one's private strong. Yeah, so he's got like that triangular shield type look. And Joe Simon must have inadvertently had it in mind when he created Cap's shield, because then it was a sheesh and desist. And they did a circular shield, and it all worked out anyway. So MLJ, aside from this shield, he came along, I don't know, late 50s, early 60s. So did The Fly and these other characters. And the team was formed around 66 when all these other small companies, and well, Archie wasn't small, but you know what I'm saying. They had the MLJ line, which I can't recall what it means. And it's it's like most of the problem, the reason they don't succeed is they're all derivative, just about all of them anyway. And by now, I mean, Captain America has been a big, he's been constantly published, and so these guys look like they came second. He came second, but not him. And then these designs are just, God, the Comet and the Jaguar, good Lord, are they awful. And I know some people are on message boards for Mighty Crusaders going to, want to dunk on me. But I think for 1983, you could have tweaked it a little more, because that's just corny shit. Rich Buckler was, he was tasked with packaging these comics. And nice little thing there. I like how he goes back there. He's like, he gets punched. It's like, gets wind out of him. And then there's Sarge Steel, and it's the Malevolent Legion of Juggernauts, like the MLJ comics. It's so silly, and I wouldn't mind if they leaned into the silly or into the outrageousness, but they're like, they're grit teeth superhero comics. And it is fun, but it's really the writing is dry. It's so dry. And see, what's weird is Buckler spent years and years doing DC and Marvel comics, and I can't figure out why he came over here. I don't know if he and like Jim Shooter came along, and you didn't see a lot of Rich Buckler at that time. I don't know if they had a falling out or just didn't like each other from the beginning when Shooter took over, or Red Circle decided to pony up some money to put behind this, and Buckler probably loved these characters, so he he just went for. I mean, this is a lot of this is just it's just there, and they're not. DC did a version of these heroes in 1991, I think it was. It was called Impact Comics, and they had the Fly, the Shield, the Web, the Jaguar, and all that. And they were improved. I think all their costumes were quite good, and you had some good talent on some of them, like Mike Parobeck. But it's all derivative. That's all it is, and you didn't really have anything new to say. It's so what's weird is Rich Buckler. I brought this up because he did a lot of indie stuff in the 80s. Like, he did this, and he also did some other work for another publisher. And then later on, with Blackthorn Publishing and Solson Comics, he would do. It would be promoted that Rich Buckler is doing the art on this comic, and you'd find out he only did the cover. And it was an issue of Black Moon that I liked. It was like this real amateurish comic that I loved. I got out of a quarter box in the 90s. And it said, next issue, Rich Buckler does the cover. And I had the next issue, and he inked the front cover, and it was kind of hastily inked. So it's like he was kind of spreading his name around, and whatever worked. I mean, if you're a freelance artist and you get that opportunity, you jump at it. And there's been jobs I've been offered, and it pained me not to take them because I was already committed to another book. So, and I think later on even they try to bring up back the Mighty Crusaders, and I think there's something going on now. I'm not sure, but it's just like Thunder Agents. When they've been Thunder Agents didn't do well at the beginning because it was so different. It had double size. The distributors of Marvel and DC basically screwed them over, and because that's that was just that's the way the business was run, and maybe it still is in certain sectors. Warriors of Omri. It is done by Willie Blyberg, who I've known mostly as an inker over at First Comics, but in Sam, I don't know if it's Sam De La Rosa or Bud De La Rosa, or if they're the same De La Rosas. Rich Buckler script, and I find this kind of fun. I mean, it's kind of fan artish. It reminds me a little of that Jim Starlin fan art that he did early on, way before he got published. But I kind of dig the costume. I dig this guy. And, it's interesting, but it's just a weird thing. It's such an odd thing. The Mighty Crusaders, they just tried to compete with the others. And for a while, though, this lasted a couple of years because they did also Blue Ribbon Digest, which would reprint their older stuff, like one that had the shield on the cover, like this one, who's Private Strong, originally done by Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby would do a brand new cover of Lancelot Strong, but there was just so much out there at the time. Marvel especially was doing these high quality reprints of books from way back when. They had the Epic line, which had magnificent, really great comics, and then you also had First Comics starting up, doing really great stuff. Eclipse, PC Comics. It didn't last that long, unfortunately, but you had a lot of contenders, and this stuff was just it's just corny, And I've tried to read these. I bought a whole bunch of these recently, pretty cheap, and I can't make myself finish an issue. It's frustrating, but I think it just goes down to that. It just goes down to their derivative, and if you're going to be true to the character, then they have to stay derivative. But if you're going to change them, then you're not true to the original character. So it's it's a real push me pull you kind of unfortunate situation, but they're fun to look at. And Paul Rainman did some of the issues during the MLJ line of comics, 1966. Just thought I'd throw that out there because I'm a geek and I remember all kinds of stuff, and I hope you like this a lot. And thanks for coming on board, and I'm grateful to see the subscribers, gradually build. I've got like 111 subscribers now. That thrills me because there are so many channels on YouTube that you could have easily spent 20 minutes with, and you chose to do it with what I have to offer, and that really means a lot. I'm not taking any money from this because I don't know, I just want to do it, and I don't like commercials either, so you don't have to deal with the commercials. But please hit like, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and if you can, hit the share button and share it with somebody else that you think would have interest in this kind of nostalgia fun. And that's all, and have a good day.